spring of 2012, before Mr. Jim SInclair departed from us on November the 9th, 2012, he summoned Robert Doucette and myself to meet with him at his residence at Regina Beach. He asked us to discuss the Daniels case and what are the legal benefits to the Indigenous people in Saskatchewan. Mr. Jim SInclair informed us under his leadership, AMNSIS developed valuable affiliates that benefit the Métis and the Indigenous people in Saskatchewan. He expressed that under the Daniels case, we had an opportunity to fill our box of rights, or our Bill of Rights, for the Indigenous people in Saskatchewan. He reminded us that to some degree we dealt with education through GDI, but we have more education development to do and is needed. We developed housing under the Provincial Métis Housing Corporation, but we recognize at the moment that more housing is needed for our people. We dealt with the social conditions and addiction issues affecting our Indigenous people, but there are more new challenges today when it comes to addiction. We dealt to some degree with economic development under SNETCO and CCDF, but more work is necessary. Mr. Jim SInclair expressed the need for expanding our rights agenda as Indigenous people in the areas of health, justice, land. He also stated we need to address the issues surrounding the missing and murdered woman issues, 60 Scoop issues, truth and reconciliation, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and duty to consult. Mr. Jim SInclair felt that the Daniels case gave us an opening and an opportunity to begin the discussion of self-government, nation to nation, not self-administration as it's happening today. It seems that our organizations are promoting the programs and services of Crown Indigenous Affairs. That's not self-government. Mr. SInclair also said that we must be involved in the policy making and policy development affecting Indigenous people in Saskatchewan and in Canada. Mr. SInclair also felt that we should be involved in the federal budget cycles. Just to give you an example, at this time, MNC, AFN, ITK are at the budget cycle discussions each year, but CAP, the Congress of Aboriginal People, is not there, who are the main plaintiffs. We should be there. AMNSIS should be there. There has been a slow progress and approach by the federal government in respect to the decisions of the Supreme Court ruling on the Daniels case versus Canada, resulting in the lack of core funding for the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples affiliates such as AMNSIS, and the lack of awareness by the Dominion and the Canadian consciousness. As Indigenous people, we have been given lack of resources and capacity to undertake negotiations with the federal and provincial governments. In conclusion, why do you feel, and why do we feel that AMNSIS is now an alternative? And what does AMNSIS, as we reinstate AMNSIS, have to offer the Indigenous people of Saskatchewan? First of all, as AMNSIS develops a self-government model, we need the input of you, the people, the Indigenous people, so we can develop a self-governing model collectively that meets the needs and aspiration of the Indigenous people in Saskatchewan who are falling through the cracks and not receiving proper services and proper rights. We need to develop a kingship model based on our inherent right to self-government that is inclusive of all our family members. For example, in my family, under Jim Morin and Georgina Case, my mother, clan or kingship, we have 62 Métis, 22 First Nations, 2 French, and 1 German in my kingship. We need to develop a constitution that is AMNSIS specific and not approved or receive the blessing of the federal government's Crown Relations and Indigenous Affairs. This is the 21st century. It is time to decolonize and take our rightful place in this dominion. We need to begin and use indigenized language as we develop policies in this country and as we plan our destiny, our relationship with Canada. The right to self-government is an inherent right derived from the Creator, who gave us specific authority as Indigenous peoples. The inherent right exists prior to European contact. As Indigenous people, we are equal to the European power, and our relation must be nation to nation. We must assert our rights and our laws as Indigenous people. Laws such as customary laws. What I mean by customary laws is gathering, powwows, ceremonies, smudging, and so forth. Laws such as our natural laws. We must protect the land, the environment, the water, the air. We have a responsibility as Indigenous people. And finally, we have spiritual laws given to us by the Creator, the highest form of politics. We must promote our Indigenous cultures, our knowledge, our ways of knowing, so that we can be proud of our identity, our dignity, and our well-being as Indigenous peoples in this Dominion and in Canada. I ask you, with your support, we can reinstate the glory days of the Association of Métis Non-Status Indians of Saskatchewan, AMNSIS, and make AMNSIS a powerful and inclusive organization once again. Thank you.